Hello, my name is Derek Taylor. And if you're watching this, you are taking my HIST 140 U.S. History to 1877 class, spring of 2021. Hello to you all. I'm your professor, teacher for this course. I'll be guiding you out the rest of this online course. And so in this video, I'm just going to go over the parameters of the course, go over the syllabus, go over some of the assignments, talk about what is expected of you, and get you started into this, especially hopefully this will be some of you probably maybe your first or second course you've taken at JUCO, your first or second history course. So let me get to this and share the syllabus for you here. And so I have my syllabus. You can find that, and I'll show you in a moment. You can find this on the on our Canvas shell. You see top of the syllabus, you have my office number, office hours. I'll be on campus this semester, so you can find me. I should be. I mean, for you, it'll be by appointment because some of you aren't even on in the area, but still, you have a phone number. Best way to contact me is through email. I check it every day. I should get back to you fairly soon, in a day or so. Course objectives, again, this is a survey course, a broad survey of American history covering big events and stuff like this. And a few things I want you to get out of this course is one, basic methods of historical research, analytical skills, reading and interpreting primary and secondary historical documents, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then more, what you're probably expecting: important people, events, trends in American history, major developments in American society, politics, economics, culture, religion, and so on and so forth during that time frame from European exploration up to 1877, the end of the Reconstruction period. So course requirements, you have 4 things you'll be evaluated on, 4 types of assignments: discussion, online discussion, which I'll talk about in a moment; quizzes, should be a lot of them, 15 of them in this course. You'll also write a book review, get to that in a moment as well as a short essay. So a couple of writing assignments, quiz assignments, and some online discussion. Rating scale is pretty standard, usually A, B, C, D, F. They did big surprises there. Required text, there will be 3 for this course. The first is called America, A Concise History. I don't know if you can see this here. You're seeing it backwards, so you can't see it, but this is America, A Concise History, Volume 1. This, it's 1877. 6th edition. This is Henrietta Hinderaker. It's a shortened edition, basically, of this 1-volume work. This is the main textbook. You'll get your basic narrative from this. You'll have a chapter assigned every week from this, so you will read it as soon as possible. You can get it from the bookstore, Johnson County Community College's bookstore, or online. You can also, by the way, buy digital versions of this, which might be quicker for you. I don't know. The second one you will buy is Cobbs Hoffman's, one of the editors. Among others, Major Problems of American History, Volume 1 to 1877. Cengage, you have the ISBN numbers there. There'll be copies available at the JCCC bookstore. You can also get it from online booksellers, Amazon, and so forth. I don't have a copy here. Mine is actually a digital copy, a Kindle copy, and I'll show you this real quickly. Show you what it looks like. That's Major Problems in American History. That's what it would look like in its physical form as well. And Major Problems in American History, just to give you an idea what it's for, as you're going to see here, it's a reader of sources. It's a source book. It says documents and essays. This is a book that's unlike the textbook, which is a straight narrative of events. This gives you sources, primary and secondary, from the period under discussion. You need to have this as well. And as you can see, go into this, you see the table of contents. I'll show you the first chapter. Get into this. Old worlds make new ones. They will give you, besides a lot of other things, questions to think about in introduction, they give you, they'll number them 1 through 8, basically, series of excerpts from documents, or from, there'll be pictorial evidence as well. Primary sources. And what are primary sources? Primary sources are sources from the time period in question. You see here you have an image relating to the Aztec, excuse me, of Central America from the 1540s. So primary source is a direct, source that goes direct to the event of the time period in question. At the end of every chapter, however, once you get past these primary sources, and there are several of them, they will give you a couple of essays by contemporary historians, living historians, who have written books or articles, academic work on the time period in question, and they give you a couple of those to read. And so you'll be reading those as well, or at least one of them. I can't remember which I assigned for this course. I sometimes assign both or one of the essays, but and you'll get the sense of what historians actually do. They'll use those primary sources to make an argument, to support an argument, or write a narrative about the past. And that's what secondary sources are. In terms of actually writing history, primary sources are more valuable because they go back to the event itself. I wanted to beat on that because that's one of the things I want to get into your head in this course, is that those are more important, even though we take into account what other historians say in terms of secondary sources that way. That'll be the second assigned work. The third, going back to the syllabus, is by Anne Farrow, Jennifer Frank, and Joel Lang. It's called Complicity: How the North Promoted, Prolonged, and Profited from Slavery. I have my copy here. Again, you can't read it across because it's backwards, but again, this is the book you're supposed to have. There is one copy available at the Johnson County Library, Johnson County Community College Library. You could probably easily find it at your local bookstore. I'll come back to this in a moment. This is, and you can definitely find it from online booksellers. Should not be too expensive. This is a book you'll have to have. The first two books, as you'll see, we're going to use for discussion in here and for the short essay. Complicity is the book you're going to write a book review of, as we'll go on to a moment and describe this. So getting to the assignments, discussion. So you'll have 15 modules, aligning with the 15 chapters or so you'll go over in the textbook, and there'll be a discussion forum for each of these books. And you'll have to post 3 questions and respond to 3 questions from your fellow students. Again, the goal is to get you to go back and forth a little bit, get a discussion going to help you understand the readings better by engaging each other. And one of the things about this is that each of the assigned readings for that module should be addressed in the discussion forum. That is to say, you'll have a chapter assigned each week in the textbook. You read that, and you'll have the chapter from a major problem source reader. One question should deal with the textbook, America textbook. Another one should deal with the source reader, particularly one of the sources you should use. You can quote from the text if it helps. Definitely helps students respond when you do that. And the third question you post should be more general in nature, broad question about the topic in general, essentially. As you're going to see, these discussion posts are due on a weekly basis, as will be the quizzes. You'll have weekly work in this class in those regards. Second, quizzes. You're required to take 15 quizzes based upon the chapter readings. Those quizzes will be only over America, A Concise History. So the quizzes will be over that. They'll usually be due, I believe, on Fridays. The discussion forum will be due on Saturdays to get that done. They're all multiple choice, by the way. There's some map questions in there as well. Otherwise, that's it. The book review, you'll be required to turn a 1 to 2 page, actually it should be 2 to 3 pages, excuse me. I'll change that. 2 to 3 pages, double-spaced review of Complicity: How the North Promoted and Prolonged and Profited from Slavery. And you'll be required to answer a series of questions regarding the book. I can show you that now. Share this real quick. I'll go to our Canvas page. Show you the book review, the actual assignment, which is due in April, so it's due before the end of the semester. And basically have 4 things to do when you write this review. Briefly summarize its contents, which is pretty easy. Identify the thesis of the book or the author's purpose in writing it, if it doesn't have one. Generally, academic works of history have a thesis. They're making an explicit argument. This, as you will see, is not a work of academic history. The 3 authors here, Farrow, Lang, and Frank, are actually all journalists. And if you don't know about the book Complicity, it was written by 3 journalists from the Hartford Courant newspaper in Connecticut. They were looking through old records of the newspaper, and they found that the newspaper had actually owned slaves at one point in the 19th century. And so they did a big several-page write-up special issue on this. And it was so popular, they went back and started to write a whole book about it. They expanded it into a book. It's a really brisk read. It's an easy, fun read. Part of the reason I gave it to you is I want you to have interest in history. And this, trust me, it's not a hard read at all. It's very journalistic. It's full of wonderful anecdotes and stuff like this. But it is not an academic work of history. I still want you to look at it as if it were to a degree. And one of the things I want you to look at it here is to detail what kind of evidence the authors provide for their thesis or for the purpose of the book. And then finally, evaluate how persuasive their argument or their narrative, their account is. One thing to keep in mind here, I want you to answer those 4 things, hit those 4 points. This is not a response paper. I don't want to hear about your personal feelings about the book. You enjoyed it, I don't care. You didn't enjoy it, I don't care. Stick to analyzing the book on the basis of what's in it, rather than passing judgment on it. Try to be detached, or at least try to write your review that way. Again, slavery is a topic that brings out a lot of emotions. I want your thoughts, mostly. I give you some pointers here. Try to view the book with a critical eye and point out what the authors do well, what they don't do well. I give you more guidance this way. When I say evaluate the author's use of evidence, again, talk about primary and secondary sources. Is it mostly primary, mostly secondary? How convincing is their presentation of that evidence? Do they make claims that are too broad for their evidence to support? That's something you should think about. Does their thesis ignore evidence to the contrary, or other arguments they might make to the contrary to theirs? Stuff like that. And again, another reminder that primary sources are, generally speaking, more important for proving a thesis or supporting it than secondary sources are. Finally, you may take note of any partiality or bias on the author's part, but don't impute intentional bias to them unless you have direct evidence. Again, be polite. You can criticize. Don't be rude. Don't be crude. Just point out the things you think are wrong. The format, again, not really a big format here. It should be a number 1 there. It should say 1 12-point times in Roman font, 2 to 3 double space pages in length. Then name and date at the top of the paper with the title centered, which should be just a review of the title of the book. And then you have my grading rubric here out of 100 points. Pretty standard, basically. And so it's meant to get you to think about the topic and think about the book. So that's the nature of the book review. The other, and we'll come back to this, the other thing you have to do is a short essay. And the short essay is going to require you to use sources to make an argument, a brief one. You're going to write an essay of approximately 3 to 4 pages, double-spaced, on one of the chapters in the Major Problems in America History reader. The source reader. So at the beginning of each chapter, they have a little section called Questions to Think About. And I want you to go to that chapter, choose one of those questions, and make that the title of your or make that the title of your essay, or make the title of your essay the answer to that question. So if the question is about something in the American Revolution, your title should be the answer to it. And your goal is to use the sources from that chapter to defend your argument. You'll have to cite them, make reference to them, somehow work them into supporting what you have to say in answer to that question. And again, it should be a little more structured. You'll have a thesis, introduction, body, conclusion, and your thesis will be the answer to that question. Again, format should have a thesis, clearly stated in the paper, which answers the prompt, introduction, body, and conclusion. Again, Times New Roman 12-point font, name, date at the top of the paper, etc. It must cite at least 4 sources from the chapter, at least. That's a minimum. 2 of the primary sources and both of the secondary essays. I want you to be able to use both of the essays they give you, either by direct quotation or paraphrase, And if you're quoting or citing or just paraphrasing, cite them by page number in parentheses. No bibliography is required since you're only using stuff from the book. And again, you have the grading rubric here. The goal of this short little assignment, it doesn't need to be terribly long, obviously, 4 pages isn't a lot, is to get you to use sources, historical sources, to make an historical argument, a very basic one. Not necessarily an academic, a really difficult, giving you a research paper, which is much more difficult, just using the sources you've read to support a thesis. And again, I'm not judging you on, I'm not asking you to do it really well, but asking that you do it and follow through on the directions. And if you have any questions about that, you can tell me, email me. I'll try to clear it up as best I can. Most students do at least okay with it. And we'll see about that this semester. So get back to the syllabus, finish up that. So, and that's the essay. Class policies, due dates, and late work. Most of the dates are actually listed in the course schedule, which I'll get to. I have a couple of these here. The book review is due April 18th. So I need to get that book sooner or later, the book Complicity. The short essays due at the very end of the semester on March the 14th. So that'll be the last thing you turn in. Key thing here is I do not accept late work, except in cases of a documented emergency, which means a death or a serious health or medical crisis involving you or an immediate member of your family. Your son, your daughter, your father, your mother, not grandma, not not third cousins, that sort of thing. It's very close to you, basically. Vacations, work schedules, computer or car troubles, I don't excuse, generally speaking. You need to be ready, have stuff backed up. Definitely not vacations and work schedules. It's not my fault. Again, you took the class, you should know what your schedule is ahead of time before you do that. Vacation's not an excuse at all. don't do it during my class. So that's that. Instructor availability, I've talked about this already, but you can, if you want to Zoom or something like that, we can do that, but email is the best way. Plagiarism. I do not abide academic dishonesty. Cheating or engaging in any kind of academic dishonesty will result in a failing grade for the assignment you cheated on. You may be subject to further penalties, which would include an immediate F in the course and referral to college authorities for further discipline, possibly excluding expulsion from the college. Papers not turned into the Dropbox, because there's going to be a Dropbox on Canvas where you turn papers in, will not be accepted. You must turn them in on time, get them in the Dropbox. The reason for that, by the way, these papers of yours will be checked by turnitin.com, so I make sure avoid plagiarism. That's why I want you to turn them in there. That's why I will not accept them otherwise, unless you have a documented emergency. And if you're not aware, by the way, plagiarism is a form of cheating, which involves either A, representing all or part of someone else's work as your own in writing, copying anything, including wording, no matter how short, from something written else without citing the source. This means not borrowing phrases, or even from the textbook, without citing them. I know a lot of you sometimes like to cut and paste stuff. That'll get you in trouble in my class. Again, rewrite it, put it in your own words. You may find that laborious, but that's the whole point of academic study, is so that you can have your own words and therefore your own thoughts. Don't steal the thoughts of others. Unless, of course, you run for president, get elected, it doesn't matter, like Joe Biden, who has committed plagiarism several times in his life. But be as it may, in this class, again, do not do that. Put things in your own words. Quoting is a different matter, by the way, obviously. Although you should fill up your papers with your own thoughts and not with, half-page long quotations. It's neither here nor there. Those are the parameters. Here you have the course schedule. You have the due dates for everything in here, so refer back to it. Excuse me. Starting this week, so get the books and go. By Friday, Saturday this week, and so on and so forth, going for the rest of the semester. Has some other due dates there. A few other things. That one module, and it's laid out in the modules. I'll show you on Canvas in a moment. You'll have a video to watch, but that's about it. And then finally, this is something. It's only for extraneous circumstances. I reserve the right to make alterations to the syllabus as needed. All changes to the syllabus will be announced in advance through Canvas. Don't worry, it rarely ever happens, but if I need to, I'll let you know jiggle something. This is not going to change substantially. This is our contract, basically, the syllabus as it stands. So there you go. That is the syllabus. Couple of other things to show you on our Canvas shell for the course. We'll go back to that real quickly. Go home here. Two things. One, you can, if you go up to, obviously, if you're watching this, the introduction has a copy of the syllabus there. Also, you can get it, you can access it on the side here. Two things, two modules I didn't talk about. One is there are a couple places you can get help for this. Actually, three I didn't put up there, but we have a writing center on campus. That's one of them. But the Academic Achievement Center is offering tutoring to students in history this semester. And so if you go there, there's a little blurb they get us to send out. You can sign up for weekly tutoring. This assistance can include things like understanding subject matter, all this other stuff here. Again, college is hard. Major universities usually don't have stuff like this. You don't get them in a community college. I urge you to, if you're really having troubles, don't give up. Ask for help. I say this as someone who, by the way, yeah, I'm a teacher here with a PhD, went through university, all that stuff. I did it, but it could have been so much easier if I had asked people for help. Way too proud for that. Don't worry about that. Get help now, learn it. It will help you out a lot. Basically, anything you don't understand. Again, I think you can do this, by the way, through Zoom and stuff like that. So do that if it's there for you. Also have, they're also offering in-person, Zoom or in-person workshops this semester. Again, the blurb has it here. If you go to this, yeah, there's two of them. One Wednesday, January 27th, other February 3rd, and they include, all the stuff there, syllabus, organizing, managing assignments, stuff like that can be helpful. As a sign-up link there, information about it on their webpage. So do take a look at those if you think you need help. Also, usually if you were taking in-class courses, they'd come into the classroom and show you this. The college success people on campus offer college success courses. These are more general courses that deal with things like well, you can see here, learning strategies, note taking, how to memorize stuff, how to take exams, things of that nature. Again, if you think you're having problems, you think you can't make this, before you just sort of give up and decide to take it again, give up and decide to take it again some other time, give these things a chance. Because again, most likely, most of my students, their big problem is they just don't know what they're doing when they get to community college. They don't know what an academic course looks like. They have the capability. They're just kind of overwhelmed by things. This stuff is helpful. I also mentioned, I definitely recommend this if you think you have any problems. And let me tell you, most of my students who come here don't write that well. There's also a writing center on JCCC's campus. If I can find something, I'll put it up there for you, a link to something, because getting your paper looked at is also very, very helpful. Not just for grammar checking, but anything else, just for organization, structure, making your writing easier to read. The better you write, the better your teacher will like it. Trust me. We appreciate good, clear writing. So all those things are there to help you and help you through the course. And here you see, by the way, you're going to have the modules for each week. Again, there's 15 modules. Actually, that's more modules than we have weeks, because you'll have spring break in the middle of this. Won't be any assignments due on spring break. So there's actually 15 modules, 14 weeks. Each module, as you'll see, shows you'll have included the quiz and then the discussion for that week. You have the quiz, colliding worlds. This aligns with the chapters. The first chapter, that should be, by the way, just colliding worlds. It'll be that when I show you the video once you go into it. But first chapter on European colonization, first European contact with the Americas, and then the second chapter, American experiments, deals with different types of colonies that were founded by Europeans, and so on and so forth, till it starts to focus in the next couple modules on the British colonies, which is where, of course, American or the United States Republic come from. Then you get into the American Revolution, the creation of the Constitution, a couple of chapters on the creating of the early republic, both its structures in terms of a the republic itself, and then creating a republican culture. We'll have some stuff to do there. I also give you a few extra things to read. Inheriting the Revolutions, excerpt of a book about the first generation of Americans born after the Revolution. It's pretty good. You also have some stuff up here in the British Atlantic World module, some documents, primary sources dating from the British Empire. So you'll be reading that stuff along with the textbook that week. Then you move into stuff in the 19th century, right? Chapter 9, Transforming the Economy, talks about the Industrial Revolution and all the changes it brings to American life, 19th century. It'll talk about the coming of democracy. Not democracy in our terms, but democracy in the sense of in the early 1800s, by the 1840s. If you don't understand this, you'll see this from the textbook. There were qualifications on voting at the beginning of the United States, being in the Republic. You had to, for example, own a certain amount of property to be able to vote in most states. By the time you get to the 1840s, almost all states have removed pretty much any voter qualifications for adult white males. And so it is democratic in that limited sense. African Americans can't vote, women can't vote, but it becomes the world's really first large-scale democracy in that sense. Chapter 11 will deal with religion reform, that is, social reform movements and their relationship to religious revival, which happens in part of the 19th century. 12, the South expands. It talks about the growth of the southern states and the growth of slavery as it expands in the Republic. Chapter 13 will deal, and you have another outside reading, an academic essay, a whole one, by a guy named Michael Holt on about how and why the Republic breaks down in the 1850s and leads to war. Maybe pretty interesting for you, given all the current events that are going on. But it's an older, it's about 20, 30 years old now, maybe a little more than that. But it's interesting theory on why the United States system of government doesn't contain the conflict that leads to the Civil War. Then 14 and 15, 14's two societies at wars on the Civil War itself. And then finally, last one's about Reconstruction, the period after the Civil War is over, where the Union tries to remake the South and turn it into what it sees as a sort of democratic republic, and protect African Americans, which it signally fails to do. So that's the broad overview of the narrative and events there. So I will have all that laid out for you. Again, I'll be, when you go, and I should show you the discussion for it, shouldn't I? I'll go show you the first one here. In the discussion for it should reiterate, the readings for that week, post 3 questions and everything. I'll be posting, I'll be responding to your questions every week, checking in, seeing how you guys are doing. I may post a question myself, just to throw it out there. See what you guys are getting from the readings. And again, it's meant to get you guys familiar with your history in a broad way, and introduce you to some of those techniques of reading sources, writing a little bit. So in any case, that is, as they say, that is the course. That's what we're going to be doing. So you probably won't be seeing me, I don't think, unless you Zoom us. We see each other on campus or something. But again, my name is Derek Taylor. Feel free to email me with any questions you might have. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you guys have a great semester. Hope you enjoy history. I sure do. I like it. You'll definitely, and by the way, I think you'll enjoy this book. It's a real, even I didn't know some of the things. I knew some of the things in this book. There are things in the book Complicity I didn't know. So you'll have fun, I think, writing a review of that as well. And that's it. I hope you guys have a great beginning of the semester, great rest of the semester as well. And happy hunting this semester.